Rapids. Um, I'm one of the 8 protesters unjustly arrested last night during a peaceful demonstration to show support for convicting the killer cop who murdered George Floyd. Make no mistake, these arrests by GRPD are just another scare tactic to try and silence the voices and leaders who have worked tirelessly to bring about change and police accountability in Grand Rapids. Last night was not the first time GRPD has tried to silence our voices, and the targeting of BIPOC leadership is a disgusting act that just affirms that GRPD is no different and still uses racist tactics to scare black and brown communities into not coming out and using their all-important voices. That is why we continue to show up and show out, because the voices of those oppressed by not just GRPD, but by the unjust racist system depend on it. This disgusting act of police brutality will not stop us from coming out and continuing to demand police accountability, the defunding of GRPD, and the arrest of killer cops and those who have brutalized black and brown communities with no regard for human life. Black Lives Matter always. No justice, no peace.
No justice.
No justice, please.
I'm up.
Well, the story behind my arrest is pretty short and sweet, so I'll keep it to that, and I'll talk about something else related to it. First off, what basically happened was I was speaking my mind on the sidewalk with a bunch of other people. Not actually on the sidewalk, but I was speaking my mind there without any warning or any signal at all. 4 people came over, dragged me away, subjected me to the corrections process that we have. Has anyone been processed before? Because they put you in handcuffs, which hurts. They denigrate and humiliate you to the best of their ability, and then they charge you money. And if anyone wants to know about justice being served, it was. They charged us money. They charged us enough money that we could have been homeless as a result, because I don't know if anyone knows, we're in the middle of an economic crisis. They're charging people thousands of dollars. They made a fat payday off of us. You guys want to talk about, have you guys heard the phrase conflict of interest? Because we know that the police, the organization, keeps the money that they take in fines and civil asset forfeiture. It is a grift. Are we going to pretend that this obviously isn't a grift? Because it's 50 years of this war on drugs. Have we beat the drugs yet? Have we fixed or helped in any way? No, in fact, we have made the problem measurably worse in every quantifiable way, by every metric. We have paid endlessly many lives, largely the people of marginalized communities, because they cannot protect themselves. That's exactly why they are targeted. What a surprise that this all happened immediately after the civil rights movement, where a racist, bigoted man, Nixon, a criminal, unilaterally gives himself the power to declare a war on drugs, and then we militarize the police, and 50 years later nobody has bothered to question whether or not this is complete insanity. We're not talking about racist police officers. That is a problem, but it's a problem that could be dealt with. We're not even talking about racist police chiefs. Again, a problem that could be dealt with. What we are talking about is racist orders that come from dead men. This is insanity. The whole militarization of the police is a grift, and we all know it. They're there to get money from us. They don't protect and serve anything besides their own interests, and we all know it, and I'm really tired of people pretending otherwise. I am embarrassed to be an American, to look at our system and be like, oh yeah, no, there's obviously no justice. There's obviously no democracy. It's obviously a massive profiteering scheme, and that's just life. And now we're all dying from freaking plague, and the economy is coming crashing down because there is no democracy, and even though we all said, hey, maybe we should invest in the people more. No, they invested in the police more. If they were getting money for training, this would be a whole different discussion, but they get money for guns, and they use them on Americans. And I'm very tired of anyone pretending like they have any leg to stand on about it. There's no ethical justification for this. It is not wrong to be high. The whole militarization of the police is a silly justification for a blood to money machine. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo. All right, I'm up next. Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Masterson. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative and also of Let Our Voices Echo. And last night I attended a march to stand in solidarity with the family of George Floyd, who was unjustly murdered in the streets by the police in Minneapolis. 20 minutes or so into this nonviolent march, a huge number of police arrived, boxed us in on Breonna Taylor Way, mind you, with their cars, and began systematically arresting specific activists and leaders. They pointed people out by name. This was not a response to a noise complaint. This was not protesters clash with police, because that there implies that there was a balance between the power of the police and the power of the protesters. This was a premeditated attack, not only on the protesters that were there tonight, but the entire civil rights movement. This was a calculated, psychological attack against working class and marginalized people and the movements that we march for. It was a purposeful act of violence designed to destroy the morale of the movement and scare off supporters. So I have a statement from the Grand Rapids 8 and all of our comrades to the Grand Rapids Police Department. We are not afraid, and we will not be silenced. And to the people of Grand Rapids who witnessed this act of violence and political suppression, I ask you now to stand strong in solidarity with the members of your community. I want you to watch those videos, watch those live streams, and ask yourself, why were none of us read our rights or told why we were being arrested or what we were charged with? Why did the police tell us all to stay on the sidewalk and then shove their way through the crowd to grab specific leaders and activists, especially black leadership? And just how, if they were responding to a noise complaint, did they get to Breonna Taylor Way so fast, so efficiently, with all of those cars? I want you to ask yourselves, if this is what you want your tax dollars to pay for. And then I want you to contact one of these orgs, JFBL, Socialist Alternative, Family Over Everything, and I want you to join us to make sure nothing like this is allowed to happen again. Solidarity.
I guess it's me. My voice is kind of dead after last night. I screamed a lot of things. This is what our taxpayer dollars do. Arrest people who did absolutely nothing wrong for simply standing up against the racism that is inherent in the police system. If you want to be a good cop, quit your job. We need to abolish the police. We need to abolish the police.
Good cops quit their jobs.
We're getting fired.
Okay, so I'm next. I'm Dighton. I was the person arrested who was thrown on the ground, left with minor bruises and minor scrapes. From being detained, from being arrested to going through the jail process, I remember the events not so much as doing them, but as watching them. My adrenaline and my fear were spiked for hours at a time, where I felt helpless and I felt powerless. And now that it's died down a little bit, I wonder what might have happened had I been slammed to the ground with pre-existing medical conditions. I wonder if I might have been treated even more brutally had there not been a crowd around me. I wonder if I would have been treated more brutally if GRPD had not already been sued for excessive force during the protests last summer. And I get the feeling that I would probably not be here today with only 2 bruises and 2 scrapes on my knees and shoulders. And I think, as I can speak to with everyone else that has said, I witnessed the same accounts. I witnessed police enter into the crowd and pull out leadership to not because they were in the street, not because they were obstructing traffic, as GRPD announced in their statement. They went into the crowd, onto the sidewalk, to arrest Christian and Donnie and Allie. And when I spoke out against the wrongdoing that I saw, I was pointed out for having a loud voice, and I was thrown to the ground for having a fight or flight response that any reasonable person would have when being surrounded by 6 large police officers trying to grab you all at the same time. You can move on to the next speaker.
Yeah, she's almost here. Hello. Once again, my name is Allie Bates. Like I mentioned before, I'm the president of Justice for Black Lives. So, as a black woman in America, the racial biases within the policing system is no secret. Yesterday, I was one of the 8 people that were arrested during a peaceful protest in solidarity with the family of George Floyd in Minneapolis. I was pointed out by officers and personally targeted as one of the leaders of the protest. My arresting officers even went as far as to physically grab another peaceful protester, detain them in front of me in order to get to me. I was compliant and made it more than clear to officers that I had no intentions of resisting my arrest, and once I was detained, I was searched without a female officer present, as another officer took a picture of my face while I was detained. These actions made me feel more than uncomfortable, and there was no reason that I could have not had a female officer present, and there was absolutely no reason for an officer to have taken a picture of my face with his personal cell phone. I strongly believe that was an intimidation tactic. I was taken into the back of a police car where we waited for nearly an hour before taken to another location and waited for nearly an hour. And within that hour, we sat and we waited to be put into the correctional facility. And while that was going on, police officers were standing outside of the cars, giggling, laughing, probably high-fiving each other for the trophy activists that they arrested that night. As we were entering the facility, the staff was oh so careless enough to raise the railing in front of the indoor entrance, causing the cop car that I was in to run into the railing, resulting in myself jerking my head forward and hitting my head on the window, busting my lip, due to the fact that I was not wearing a seatbelt because I was detained. I later then stayed into the corrections facility for a few hours before being released, and we received little to no information about what our charges were, along with how much our bond was. I would like to thank every person that donated money and helped us make bail. This is exactly what community looks like, and it's also the community that the city likes to ignore. But almost a year after the death of George Floyd, we are still here. We are still pissed, and we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Woo!
All right.
Alright, well, I got here just in time then, huh? My name is Roshana Charles. I was protesting yesterday for obvious reasons, the same reasons we've been out here every day we've ever been out here. I don't know. It's a little difficult to put into words when you're on the spot about how things feel. I was really happy out here with everyone earlier on in the night. Just the amount of support that we had was great until it wasn't there. Upon when things got a little bit more intense last night with the blockade and everything, a lot of people always tend to have misconceptions about how things actually happen, and it's sad because even when the news is there, somehow it's still not right. And we did get hurt. It was unnecessary, and it was sad. Not to mention the conditions inside weren't super great either, but that's alright, that's another day. But in general, the only thing I really care to say is that it doesn't stop anything. It can put us away for a little bit, but it doesn't stop anything because we're doing what's right. So we're still gonna be here. So I don't think they accomplished anything, except making me a little bit more ready to be out here every day. So there's that. That's it for me, honestly.
My name is Donnie. I am Vice President of Justice for Black Lives. I'm largely involved into the community. And what I mean by that is we're constantly out here not only just protesting, not only just creating events, building awareness for what's going on politically and other issues, other awarenesses across the board of this marginalized spectrum, of course. We're out here doing other things. We're shoveling snow, sidewalks for pedestrians that can't do that, for low-income houses. We're picking up trash for low-income houses. We're making sure that our communities are being taken care of. Now, last night, I was a part of standing in solidarity, a part of an event standing in solidarity for George Floyd and the active trial that's going to happen for George Floyd. It's for him, but a lot of people need to understand on who's actually going to trial. He's not going to trial. Derek Chauvin is going to trial, okay? We stood in solidarity for George Floyd. While standing in solidarity with George Floyd, we were personally targeted by GRPD. This isn't the first time that it's happened with any one of us that's standing up here. They've been targeted. A lot of other organizers that aren't standing up here. They personally target me each and every day, whether I'm in this attire or whether I am in personal clothes. I can't walk down the street without GRPD slowing down, taking pictures, recording me, or asking me what I am doing, regardless if I am wearing whatever I want to wear or whatever is best fit for my protection. So, yes, we were targeted last night. I was personally targeted in a crowd of people. It was a crowd. And, there's this perspective on being at these events and being with people, and like there's this bad, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths about what actually happens, right? I beg people to actually get an experience on what is actually happening. Go there, know what that feels like, see what is happening, go with your eyes up and head on a swivel. Understand what is happening. You cannot walk a day in this life and think, I don't like this person because I heard something from these people. I need to go walk with this person and understand why this person does not like this person. That is the answer here, okay? We are being personally targeted by GRPD. I am going to repeat myself. I am being targeted by GRPD. So this is why I dress the way that I do, okay? So what you see here is what you get, but understand why I am doing this. It is for my protection, and when I am out here doing events, it is for public safety, trying to get the safety of the crowd, making sure that people are comfortable enough in order to express and elevate their voices so that your opinion can be heard. Her opinion can be heard. Her opinion can be heard. Her opinion can be heard. I was targeted last night for being not only too loud, but just being present, taking leadership in a situation where, again, if you want to complain about it, you could have helped. If you want to complain about it, you could have offered suggestions and or concerns, comments as to how to perfectly, legally perform said event. But since you can't, we are left with our First Amendment right, and we are going to express that every single time. Every time. Because that is our right. Regardless of how any one of our opinions feel, regardless of how we feel, or what is factual or non-factual, that is our right. We are constantly being told not to be out here, directly to our faces, not to be out here. The noise ordinances is a lot of BS so that they can legally give us something on paper, so that they can put our names in the system in a database, so that they can eventually build up enough situations so that we can't be out here anymore. And then once we're gone, what happens? There's no more leadership on the floor. Our responsibility, every single one of us that are standing right here, and people that aren't even here, is to send a message. And the message is this: we aren't stopping. And what are you going to do to continue it? What will it take? What are you prepared to do for your First Amendment right, your Second Amendment right, all of it? Every right you have, supposedly, right? What are you prepared to do? Because day in and day out, we are fighting for ours. The revolution is alive.
The actions against us by GRPD came as no surprise, considering the fact that us organizers have been targeted by them for months. But I would like to make one thing very clear. We are not thugs or the looters and rioters that they would like to deem us as. We are simply community members wanting to see justice for George Floyd and accountability within our policing system worldwide.
Amen.
Yes, George Floyd was not from Grand Rapids, Michigan, but every police department has a Derek Chauvin, including the Grand Rapids Police Department. And until we see transparency and accountability, and until GRPD is defunded, we will continue to be out here applying pressure, because once again, we will not be silenced. Right now, I just want to open the floor to any questions the press may have.
So police yesterday justified the arrest of the protesters to us by saying that they had given multiple warnings about not being in the street and noise complaints. And I just want to know your response to that, about the conversations or the communication between officers and event organizers regarding those violations.
Well, like mentioned earlier, at the time when they even started arresting people, the march was relatively over. We're just making our way back to Rosa Parks Circle. Nobody was in the streets besides the police department, and they cornered us in a specific spot. I don't understand how they try to justify us being in the street when they literally went into a crowd of people and arrested people who were not on the street, who were on the sidewalk. They pointed at people specifically. I knew 10 minutes before I was arrested that I was going to jail because I was pointed at. Then all of us were pointed out.
Oh yeah, can I weigh on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate that it might be hard to believe that some people here were targeted, but we, plenty of people who were around Christian at the time when he was arrested, heard them saying his name and pointing him out. I personally saw them spot Donnie and said, Donnie. They pointed at him and said, that's Donnie. They know him. They know him. I wasn't there for when Allie got taken, but I assume it was the same case. And I'm pretty sure the whole rest of us just got in the way. The only reason we got dragged in, it made it look better.
I don't
They
think
were
they liked
targeted.
it so much when I got down on one knee and put my hands in front of them and told them to take me because I was doing the same thing that everyone else was doing, standing on the sidewalk.
The whole rest of us were just to further justify the thing. Those three were targeted.
There's footage to prove that, you know, like he said, some of them were just simply in the way. Turk was arrested for not obstructing anything, not blocking any traffic, but for simply being in front of the wrong person at the wrong time. Because you can see on video that he was standing in front of me, he was detained and pushed past to get to me. I refuse to believe that any one of us were not targeted by GRPD.
Something I can also say about GRPD ordering us to get off the street, they purposefully have a megaphone that has a high amount of static to the point where you cannot comprehend a single word. So if the police are trying to order around a protest and ask us to move from the street into the sidewalk or whatever those requests may be, we are none the wiser because we cannot comprehend what the megaphone static over their words.
I'd like to weigh in on that. They could also use the 6 megaphones that has been confiscated by the many organizations that's been down there. So they could also use those.
And ours are clearer sounding.
Let's make it very clear that again, when they told us to get on the sidewalk, that's what we were doing while the arrests were happening. That's why we were all on the sidewalk and being arrested. So let's make that very clear. They told us to get on the sidewalk, we got on the sidewalk, and now we were arrested. So let's make that very clear.
We had no time to respond to that. And also to anyone who we were warned as to how to do a protest right. And I would like to remind everybody that if MLK had listened to such advice, we would still have Jim Crow. That's not how protests work. That is silly. Oh, you got to do your protest right. I don't think you understand what's going on here.
I mean, if there's a reason to protest, I don't think you can really say how to do it right. When you're out here literally expressing your deepest parts of your soul and your heart, pouring it out for literally anyone and everyone, I don't think you can be told how to do that properly. And any time that emotion is valid and true, it's never going to be proper because no one wants to hear it. There is no way.
You can talk about destruction of property, hurting people. That's something. We didn't do that. Noise violations? Are you kidding? We didn't hurt anybody.
That's just a show of force and authority. That's exactly what GRPD did last night. It was scare tactics to try to scare people away from coming out and protesting because they know the summer is coming up. They know the anniversaries of all these people who were mercifully murdered by police are coming up, and they're trying to scare us away from coming out and showing solidarity with other cities. The anniversary of Cavassier Phillips being beat up by police. The anniversary of Breonna Taylor, the anniversary of George Floyd's death, the anniversary and the start of the trial of the Derek Chauvin trial. It's all scare tactics. It's a way to scare black and brown communities from not coming out and using their all-important voice to protest, to legally protest, and it's a way to block that freedom of speech.
Okay, we're going to answer 2 more questions.
So I just want to confirm, were you all at any point walking down the roads, and did you all have any noise-enhancing equipment?
Yes.
You did have noise-enhancing equipment, and you were walking on the road.
We were walking on the road, but when we were warned to not walk on the roads, we got
We were
onto the
already off
sidewalk.
the roads.
Yep.
And like I said before, we marched all summer with megaphones, microphones, marched in the street the entire summer with not a single problem from GRPD.
This was a targeted event to target leaders
And they knew
and
what was going to
activists.
happen. They knew what the event was because they told us. Yeah, we're aware that you're doing this event. They told us before.
So why didn't you guys get a permit, though? Because wasn't that their whole problem, that you guys couldn't walk on the streets or have that equipment unless you had a permit?
The permit is the First
Can I ask you a question?
First Amendment rights.
The permit is our First Amendment right.
What permit exists?
Did MLK have permits?
Also, to be fair, we've had permits for a lot of the other ones. doesn't stop anything.
Why
A
give the
permit
city
is
money when you're
just-
protesting the city?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a piece of paper.
Tax dollars already being wasted as it is.
Do we seriously
Literally
a permit?
$56.4
That you have to pay
million
for that.
being wasted.
You have to pay to express free speech. That doesn't make any sense.
They're also not giving out permits for protests because of COVID.
Right.
Yeah, like, it's not like it's easy to get one.
And it's not like they would approve one anyways.
We don't need the city's approval to come out and use our freedom of speech that is constitutionally protected by the First Amendment.
Especially
We have
since we know in advance that
we don't have to have a permit to do that. Because plenty of militias went and marched everywhere. The Capitol, the fucking the Lansing Capitol.
Yeah.
They marched everywhere. They marched in the Grand Rapids Rosa Parks. They didn't have a permit for that one.
Were they being arrested?
Were they being arrested? Were they
Were
being
they being
targeted?
targeted?
They literally said they wanted to kill Governor Whitmer at some of those events. And some of the people who plotted to kidnap Governor Whitmer were those events. So when they don't have permits, it's okay. But when we don't have permits, it's not okay, apparently. But that's because it's...
And you plan to fight it?
We spent 5 hours in a hole.
We can't talk about our charges right now, but
Well, I was going to ask, can you just specify what each of you are charged with? Because I know we at least have not been able to get any clear answers from the city.
we can't
talk about that.
we can't disclose that, but it's public record. So
It is public record.
You want to, if people want to look it up,
If they really wanted to, they can
That's
get
fine.
trouble.
But-
Finding the information on their site, but
Yeah.
it's supposed to be there somewhere.
yeah, it's there somewhere, but we're not going to talk about
I
it.
assume you plan to contest it, or can you talk about that? Or
We're talking about that. I don't know if there's a set decision on the matter yet.
I mean,
Because most of us were on the sidewalk. I was arrested on the sidewalk. I know Donnie was arrested on the sidewalk. Most people were arrested on the sidewalk, and I was the
You
first
were
protester
arrested
arrested at the event.
on the
And when people contested my arrest and said he doesn't deserve to be arrested, he was on the sidewalk, he was doing nothing wrong, they were grabbed up by GRPD. And that's again a violation of free speech right there. For protesting an officer's arrest of somebody who, in most people's opinions, was an all-lawful arrest anyways, an unjustified arrest, you can't just arrest somebody for saying, I don't think you're doing your job right. Because that's when police accountability happens, and when they don't want police accountability to happen and they just arrest people, that's when it becomes the problem.
so in short, we're not naming our charges, or if we plan to contest them or not. Like I said, it's public record. I mean, if you know any of us at all personally or have seen us out in the streets, you already have the answer to your questions. Pretty much, that's all we have. Thank you guys all for coming out.
I got one more message for GRPD. We're not going to be silenced. We're not going to stop doing what we're doing. Just because you come out here and you use your authority to try to stop us from using our freedom of speech, that's not how that works. You can come out here and arrest me every single time we have a protest, and I'm still going to come out the next time, no matter what. This is not just a phase. This is not just a fad. We are here for a movement. We are working towards police accountability, defunding the GRPD, and more transparency from even our police department in the city. And we're not going to stop protesting until we get that.
We didn't start this, and ain't nobody's gonna stop it now.
Nope.
Can't stop the revolution.
You can't stop the revolution.
I'm gonna take this. I'm just gonna get names of her. Christian, CR. Oh, is it CA or CR?